everyone. My name is Jessica Voorsanger, as the lovely Jen just introduced me. And today I'm going to do a workshop with you exploring pattern, rhythm, and algorithms, which is basically a repeat pattern workshop. And I'm a multidisciplinary artist, which means that I work in all different mediums. I trained as a painter and then discovered that I was interested in the ideas around the work and started exploring the ideas through everything, through sculptures, photography, video, performance, and at the moment, the thing I'm really excited and interested in is collage. What I'm doing in my own practice is doing a lot of collage with fabric, so I'm sewing things together. But I do a lot of paper-based collage and painting as well. And so that's one of the things that we'll be doing today. One of the images you saw in the introduction was a pattern that I created for Croydon PQ. I did an installation in that unit, and it was all inspired by television and film. And through a workshop there, we created a little icon drawing that represented each of the different television shows and films that people found positive and joyous and exciting, things that they really loved. And then I turned that into a pattern, which became a wallpaper, and that went all over the space, and we painted the walls different colors, and it became this very bright, exciting room. So I'm going to show you now. We're going to move down to my tabletop surface, and basically this is what we're going to be working towards today, is doing something like this. But the thing about a workshop, which I think is the most interesting and exciting part of when you throw a bunch of ideas out onto the table, that everybody takes things in their own direction and does their own things with it. So what I'm going to show you are the things that I chose to do, but what I want all of you to do individually is take this in a direction that is meaningful and relevant for you. So what this collage consists of is 2 different drawings. And then I collaged all of those elements down onto another piece of paper. So it's pretty complex, but when you see the steps, you'll see that it's actually really easy. So the first thing that I'm going to do, okay, so you've all been sent in your packs different patterns and things to use as an inspiration. So this is just a page from a book of different patterns that I found really beautiful. And I find domestic patterns really exciting. I like curtains and tiles and wallpaper, and these are things that I just really enjoy. The pattern that I decided to be inspired, that I decided to do the workshop based on, is this one. You'll see that it's completely different in the direction that I took it, but I wanted you to see that it's basically these 4 rounded elements that have these curved lines that come out of them. And now I'll take you into doing the drawing of where I want that to go. So if you start with just a nice piece of white paper, it can be A4, it can be A3, however, it could be A5, whatever you're happy working with. This one is A4. And one of the things that I love to do is, because I find form and geometry and repetition really beautiful, one of the greatest little hacks for making decisions is to fold your paper so that you already have some instant lines. So I folded it first in half this way, and then I folded it lengthways this way. And now I'm going to do that again. So I'm going to cheat and just do both sides together. Now you see how I've created all these lines, and it was super fast. And so this way I don't need to use the ruler to measure out all of these spaces, okay? If you use your the side of your, just your nail, your thumb edge, and then you just bring it along those folds. It gives you a much sharper line, and then you can see those divisions, those sections much better. Now that I've done that, I'm going to take my ruler and I'm going to start dividing the paper up in actual quadrants there. So the paper that the pattern that I am inspired by is actually squares, but you'll notice that I am using rectangles because that is the way that it folded on my paper. And I love a rectangle as much as I love a square. And I actually really also like to see what happens when you take things in different directions. So, you have one idea of what it should be, but there is no should be. That's one of the most important things that you need to remember, is that whatever you choose to do within your own project is absolutely right. So the first thing that you saw were those rounded bits. So I've decided to do this all freehand with my pen, but if you prefer, you can use a pencil. Okay, you can draw them out in a pencil if you want them to be more precise. And then if it's not exactly as you like it, of course, you can erase away. I also have a big eraser for big mistakes. But as I said, I'm just going to do mine freehand. And I'm going to fill in all of my rectangular sections because I want all of these pieces to make my collage later. So I'm just going to show you here. Okay, so I'm going to do 2 rows so you can see how it starts to look when they're together. And one thing about doing it freehand is that it's not perfect. You have slight variations in those shapes. And I think that's beautiful. I really like that. So right now it's still super simple what I'm doing. So what you should do is look through those patterns, choose something you're inspired by, and you can start copying it, or you can use something from your own home or memory, or something really positive that you liked, like stripes or circles, or whatever pattern you really like. So so do you remember we had these lines that came up sort of like that? Okay, so now I'm doing those on all of them. And what I found was when I started to do this, I didn't see it in the pattern I chose. I actually chose the pattern because I really loved these curved shapes. But when I started drawing them out to show you, to make the work to show you the example of the finished piece, I realized that they looked a little bit like butterflies, which is also nice. Okay. So I'm just going to move on here. And I don't need to do them all. I just need to do enough for you to see what it looks like once I've started to color them in. Okay. So the last piece that I haven't put in the drawing are the circles. And I'm just going to pop those up now. So the page is already starting to come to life with this pattern. There are the circles. Now, in the original pattern, there was also another shape that came up underneath, but I chose to leave it out because I wanted there to be a little bit more simplicity to what was happening, because I knew that so much more of what I'm doing is going to make it more complex. And what I find as I'm doing a repetitive drawing is it becomes quite meditative. You kind of get a little bit lost in it and calm. It's a really nice feeling for me. Okay, so now I'm going to put my pen aside and I'm going to start to color them in. So I've got some markers here. So I've got markers, I've got my Sharpie, as you saw, and I've also got some paints. Okay, so it's completely up to you how you want to color in your images. But what we want to do is to have a repeat image. So we want them to be the same or variations of the same thing, so that we start to recognize those same things when we put them in our final work. Okay, so with this one, I've decided to use a marker, but I really love the way that paint looks. And so I've decided to mix both together. Now, the reason that we've started to do this part of the elements that we're using to make our collage with later is that if you wanted to use paint, this the next step that we do after this will give your paint a chance to dry a little bit. So we always need to build in a little bit of drying time. Okay, so I'm just going to do those two, and then I'm going to do blue. I want to put these guys in blue. Here. Okay. And I went over the line a little bit, and you know what? It doesn't matter. It's completely fine. I actually love going over the line. I once was told, my kids are grown up now, but I went to a school, one of my kids' schools. The teacher asked me to come in and give the kids a talk about art. And the teacher said to me before we started, she took me aside and she said, "Could you please tell the kids to make sure they stay in the lines?" And I said, okay. And then I talked to the kids about art and showed them books and different artworks by different artists, one of which was Jackson Pollock, who was very famous for spraying paint everywhere and dripping and pouring paint. And then at the end of my presentation to the kids, I said, remember, it's really important to remember you don't have to stay inside the lines at all. But what was so amazing was that the teacher at the end of it thanked me and said that was so wonderful and that she had really gotten a lot out of it. And so hopefully I taught her more than the kids that it was okay to go outside of the lines, because we're all individuals. And what one person thinks is perfect is not necessarily what another one does. And that's not relevant, And with art, we're expressing ourselves. This is all about communicating. And for me, the things that I love and what I'm communicating is, movement. So there's the aspect of the rhythm is the movement of what happens when your eye starts looking at all these different elements on the page, but also color. Love color, and I love pattern, and I love texture. And so I've decided to use paint for my background. And you can see that as you're using these different materials, they have different qualities, and that's one of the things that's nice about using different materials. So, the watercolor, I'm using acrylic, but if you use more water in it, it becomes like a watercolor. And you can see that it's a really nice opaque, but if you add more water, then you can make it a little more translucent so you can see through it. but it also, as a tricky thing, covers more space quickly. But when you're using the markers, you know, oftentimes you still see the lines that the markers make. And that's okay too. It's just, you know, what you want from what you're making. So here we go. All right, so I've nearly finished these two, just to show you, okay? And the last bit of these is to put a little bit of pink in these circles. Okay. All right, so I've done these 4. I've done these 2. What I want to do is another 2, so then you can see the contrast, because I decided I really needed to have more than one color pattern, color bit there, so that they could contrast with each other. So in this one, I used green for my petals, if they're flowers. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, instead of doing 4, because I need to make sure that I don't spend too much time on this part, as Jen mentioned to me before we started, she said, it takes a lot longer than you think. You know, your time passes much faster than you think. And I thought, nah, I'll have plenty of time to do the whole workshop. But yeah, I see time is passing. So I'm just going to very much less precisely fill in these bits so that you can see how nice they look.
And that's a perfect moment for me to interject there, Jessica, and just let everyone know that we've got about 25 minutes left of today's workshop. If people feel that this is going a little bit quickly or they need more time, please feel free to kind of come back to this activity and finish it in your own time. We'd absolutely love to see what you've created if you'd like to upload those to our gallery on our website afterwards, after you've completed the activity. And I'd also like to give a few hellos and shout outs as well today. So hi to everyone who's joining us from Leeds, and that's from Amy Popsies. Big hello to Owen Relly and everyone at Springfield Recovery College. Thanks so much for joining us today, guys. And a big hello to Sarah at Fairbanks as well. And I'd like to give a special hello to Una and Snowsfield Adolescent Unit, who I know will be watching this back on demand.
Okay, so I'm just gonna do that. One really nice thing about acrylic is that once it dries, you can paint over it, and it is water-based, but when it dries, you can't reactivate it the way you can with watercolor, so that if you want to paint over it and change something, you can, and that is completely fine. So for example, okay, I changed my mind and I wanted these to be pink because I thought they would pop more. And I need to clean my brush. I've got some, you know, a jar, dirty water. Great view of that. But I'm going to put yellow on these bits here because I realized I wanted the yellow to relate to the yellow of the background, and I wanted the whole thing to pop. Okay, so I'm not going to do this blue one. What I'm going to do is I'm going to show you I've done those, which is the starting point for a major part of the collage, and then I'm going to show you what a page of it looks like finished. So this I spent more time on, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut those up, okay, so that I can, so I've got a smaller piece of those here. So again, this is, you know, I'd never used the word hack before, but, you know, now we use it so much in our life hacks and our art hacks and our, you know, tool hacks. If you watch YouTube, there are all these different things you can do, but I'm going to now cut these up using my ruler. Okay, so again, you see I'm using the side of my nail because making it precise, making that a sharp fold means that when I use my ruler to do my cutting hack, it's much sharper and cleaner. So I've now put my ruler right at the fold of one of the places that I made a fold, and I'm holding it down quite firmly, and I'm taking the edge of my paper and I'm slowly, not quickly, slowly ripping it. See? That gives me a really nice clean tear. Okay, so obviously to make my collage, I need more of these, don't I? So I need little blue guys. Yeah. And I'm going to make these smaller. So I'm going to cut these in half. So all of a sudden, my beautiful little pattern is now going to be more of an abstract, except it doesn't always come out perfectly, but that's okay too. You know, as I said, you know, these things give it more character, you know. So I'm going to see if I can take that little bit of edge off. Okay. I've got those two. Now I'm going to do these two. Okay. And okay, so I've got a few of those now. Great. And I need a few of these. So doing the same thing here. And cutting those in half. Now, a sensible person would have pointed out that if I'd done another fold, I could have cut those all in half again across there, instead of having to do these all individually. But I didn't think of it till now. So, so all of you out there thinking, why didn't she do it that way? You're absolutely right. That would have saved me a little bit of time. Okay, so now I've cut those. I can keep those there so you can see them. And I'm just going to make that again more precise. And then we're going to move on to the other element, which is the algorithm bit. Okay, so now we have those nice little bits, and I'm just going to push those off to the side for a second. And the next bit is the algorithm. So I'm going to take a piece of white paper, and I'm going to take a pen, and I'm going to show you what I mean by an algorithm. An algorithm is sort of a set of instructions which is often used with math, a mathematical term, but it's also used with computers. But the idea of an algorithm is creating a kind of set of rules for yourself and then seeing what those rules make as a drawing. So for example, let me do it down here. It's easier for you to see. If I start here and I make what is almost a rectangle, okay, but then I just keep making that rectangle. And the rule that I've created is that it has to intersect a line. So if I go up here, I have to keep intersecting a line, don't I? And it takes me in different directions. And this is all an algorithm of a set of rules that I made for myself. So that's the basis of the algorithm. The algorithm I chose for this workshop, for myself, for the drawing that I'm doing, the piece of artwork I'm making, is more like a half circle. So a semicircle. So I've got going like this. Okay. So I've created this sort of swivelly line that is dissected. And now, so let me do another one. Okay, so it's the opposite this time. Okay, now I want to make it more dense and interesting. So I'm going to do it again, but I'm going to do it going a different direction. So now I'm using these points as the place to make my drawing. Okay, but look, I made a mistake. That should be 2 different points, shouldn't it? But you know what? That's okay, because those things happen. Okay, so if I continue here, okay, then I start to make it denser. Okay, and that's what I'm looking for. Oh, yes, I believe that is the lid. I did put it in a good place. So that's the basis of the algorithms. But I decided, so in your packs, you should have some colored paper. I decided that I wanted to use more color, and I wanted to bring more color into what I was making. And so if you start with a piece of colored paper, that's a great way of bringing in more color without the time of painting. If you prefer a painted page, you can paint your page whatever color you want and then do your drawing on top. So I'm going to take that blue pen again, and I'm going to start doing my algorithm again. And this time it will be for the one that I want to make. Okay. So you've already seen the basis of my pattern. Okay. And it's easy to also confuse yourself, or just me. Maybe I'm the only one that gets confused doing this stuff sometimes, but it's a fun confused. Okay. And then here, see, now these 2 points are at an angle. So that's interesting. So that means that that line is not going to be a perfect grid, is it? And that's when things, oops, and then I did a mistake. But as I said, those mistakes make things interesting, I think. So we'll make it go that way. Make that one go this way. We'll continue that down. And again, we're going to start here. So if that one's pointing that way, I'm going to have this one point this way.
Wonderful. And while everyone's kind of getting on with making their algorithms, just to let you know that we've got about 15 minutes of today's workshop. I'd like to say another hello to Marie, Ash, and everyone joining us from Queen Mary's Lavender Ward. Hello, and thanks for joining us today. And a big thumbs up from Teresa Newlands to Jessica as well. Thank you for today's workshop.
So you broke up a little bit, so I didn't entirely hear that. So I'd love to hear who that shout out is from, but I'm going to say hi back. And then, but please tell me who that was so I know who I just said hi to.
So that was from everyone joining us from Queen Mary's Lavender Ward.
Oh, lovely. Hello, Queen Mary's Lavender Ward.
And a big thumbs up from Teresa Newlands as well.
Okay, hello, Teresa Newlands. Okay, so now I've shown you about the algorithms, and then there is one I did already. So that can show you how small or dense you want it to be. You can make your marks as big or as small. So when I had started them, I made them actually quite big. But when I did this one, I made them quite small. So it's entirely up to you. And then, sorry, with this page, I drew out a grid on the back of it before I started. You don't have to do that. You can do it afterwards. But I thought it would make it easier for when I decided to rip this one up. So I've already done my folds, and I've already made the marks so I know where I'm trying to break these up so that I have another set of things to work with. Okay. And then I've got them here. So I've got a few of them already here. And now with these ones that I had already made, you know, that I made showing you, I'm going to now start to work on what my final artwork is. Okay. So what I find really interesting so I'm going to start with a blue piece of paper. Okay. And I'm going to start playing with these on there. And so they're not going to match up. The drawing is what it is, which has become an abstract. So it had the starting point of my algorithm. Okay, so that's how many of those I have here. And then I'm going to, and what I've done is I've created a grid. So why don't we keep it maybe as a grid of 9, because that's a nicer sort of harmonious group there. Okay. So we've got this group of 9 here. And what I like is the grid creates a kind of, makes sense in what is otherwise sort of chaos. Okay. And then I take these, sorry, I take these and I can start playing with these here. So I can have them match up or I can have them not match up. But I'm looking at this and thinking, you know what? I think these are still too big and I want them smaller. So I'm going to, this time I'm not going to use the ruler. I'm just going to fold them and tear them because I think they're still a little bit big. And I think if I make them smaller, I can put them in more places. Okay. Okay. And then they become even more abstracted. They lose that little bit of butterflyness that they had. They started out looking a bit like flowers, but they were all inspired by that, that pattern I showed you, which were floor tiles. Okay, and so here I'm loving the color and how much color is just popping out at me. You know, it just makes me happy. Okay. And so now we've got to start gluing them down. So I probably won't have time to glue the whole thing down, but I've got my glue stick here. And I'm going to start making sense of my grid. Okay. So I made my decisions, and now I need to get those all down on the paper. And I love this blue, so I want some of that blue to show. So I don't want to cover it up completely. There. And let's see, how am I doing for time there, Jen?
You've got about 10 minutes left, and that's to let everyone know we've got 10 minutes left of today's workshop. As we said earlier, today's session will be recorded and uploaded to our YouTube channel if you would like to watch anything back, and that will give you time to kind of watch it back at your own pace, be able to pause and rewind as well, and that'll be on our YouTube channel by tomorrow morning. I'd just like to say a few more hellos as well. Big hello to everyone joining us from Ward 2 at Springfield Hospital. Thanks for joining us today. And hi to Sarah and everyone joining us from John Elliott Unit in Rochdale.
Hello. Hello, everyone. It's great to have you. Thank you for joining us. So I'm now just spending a little bit of time gluing these down. And oops, I want to have that green one down before I glue that one. And as I started gluing them, I messed up my whole pattern with the top layer, but it's okay because I understand the principle of what I had chosen to do, which was to first put down my algorithm pieces and then alternate with the red and the blue pattern pieces. And I'm using these corners as sort of junctions for where I want them all to sit. So there's this one, which is going to go here. And this one, which is a blue one, go here. It's moved. Come on, go where I want you to. And then that one. Oop, I don't want that one there. I want that one there. And let's put another orangey one down. And let's put another blue one down. Okay, and then this is the final part of this process, which is the drawn elements. And that is completely up to you for how you want to do it. But what I like to do is about making connections. So so I somehow messed up a little bit because these two are not alternating, but that's okay. While it's still freshly there, I can just move it because it's only just freshly been glued. And I've got this last one here. And now I'm going to take my Sharpie here. And now you see all these lines that were cut and broken. I'm going to connect them. So I'm going to connect these to different elements here. So I'm just going to find all these places where these connections need to happen. And I'm going to just play with that. And it could actually come and connect over to another side. So here we've got these lines that want to connect to something they had nowhere to connect to on their side. And then this one doesn't quite come out, but I'm going to do it anyway. And I'm going to bring these in. And this is what I like to think of as an intervention. So the artwork was practically finished, but I've made a sort of interruption by drawing into it. And in a way, I think that by making this interruption, as I mentioned before, that it's creating different kinds of connections, and it's making more sense of what is a sort of chaos. And here we are, bring this one around, bring these down, and these over. And have I missed any? Yeah, I didn't do these. These need to be done. So again, this is a kind of algorithm in that I've created this rule for my drawing that if I see an unfinished line, it needs to be connected to another line. So this one's unfinished. These are unfinished. This can come around down here. This can come around. And this has also allowed me to put some nice curves into the drawing, which I otherwise might not have had a huge number of. Although actually I've got these nice curved petals. Can anyone see any more that I've missed? I think I've got them all. Nope, here's some more down here. And then, so here again, there's a couple more here. And when I started this version of the drawing, I had no idea that this was going to be my final image, but I'm super happy with it. I love it. I think it's beautiful. But what you could do is you could take that rule even further if you wanted and say connect some of these pieces together, because these are all broken lines as well. Sort of bring them places. But I think I'm actually done. I think I'm going to finish it there. So how did I do in time, Jen?
You did absolutely brilliant for time, Jessica.
Some that didn't get me.
Just in time.
Okay. All right. I think I did it.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for such an incredible and original workshop today, Jessica. I think it's so fantastic to see that just with a kind of a few simple materials such as pens, paper, a few references as well, but the possibilities are so endless, and just kind of thinking about the things that this could turn into. It could turn into textile or greetings cards or postcards or anything. It's been really fantastic. So I can't thank you enough on behalf of the whole Hospital Rooms team, Jessica, for your time and creativity in sharing it with us today.
Thank you, Jen. And before I stop talking, can I just thank everyone for coming to join us? It's been absolutely lovely to have you here, and I hope you enjoyed it and that you enjoy making, you enjoy the results of what you make.
Thank you so much, Jessica. And a huge thank you as well, once again, to everyone that's let us know where you've been joining us from. It's always so wonderful to have you all with us live. It's time to launch our end of workshop poll. If you could indicate on your screens how you found the workshop today, this will really help us to improve the Digital Art School workshop as we continue to grow and develop our new terms. So that should be popping up on your screens now. Thank you so much, everyone, for submitting your answers. We'll just give that a few more seconds. Fantastic. Just to give that a couple more seconds, could see everyone's answers popping up on the screen. That's wonderful. Thank you so much for that, everyone. Thanks so much. Really appreciate that. Louis, if you could please bring up our slideshow. Fantastic. Thank you so much. If you're still here with us, I'd like to share the story of Hospital Rooms and how the workshop today has come about. So as you may or may not know, we are a London-based arts and mental health charity, and we transform inpatient NHS mental health units with extraordinary arts. We began our digital art school in response to COVID-19 lockdowns when our in-person work in mental health units was put on hold. It's been hugely important for us since then to build a creative community where we can join together across the country and feel part of something special. And I'm pleased to let you know that we are also a Webby Award-winning programme. You can find the library of our past projects and all of the previous Digital Art School workshops on our YouTube channel, where you'll find a variety of original and imaginative workshops with world-class artists such as Jessica Voorsanger, who we've had today. From t-shirt customization to painting with sound, Gyotaku printing, and so many more, please do have a look and subscribe to our channel. We also have a Digital Art School newsletter, which keeps you informed of upcoming workshops, the materials you need for them, along with any relevant downloads, as well as links to last week's video if you missed it. You can sign up for that newsletter at hospital-rooms.com. We absolutely love when you share your artworks with us by uploading to our online gallery. You can do so anonymously, or you can let us know your name and where you are. If you've created some patterns today, either joining us live or watching back on demand, we'd really love to see them. We will be back next week, Thursday at 2 p.m. for an amazing Leporello making workshop with Brighton-based illustrator Lucy Sherston. If you'd like to know more about that and the materials list, you can find that on our website. So from myself and Louis and everyone on the Hospital Rooms team, thank you all so much for joining us today. And another huge thank you once again to the amazing Jessica Voorsanger for leading today's exciting workshop. We'll see you all again on Thursday, the 23rd of September at 2 p.m. Thanks so much, everyone.